turn your hobby into a job, and you'll no longer have a hobby. It's a warning we've all heard, right? But why does it feel so true for so many of us? Hello to all viewers of my channel. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most fundamental questions of human behavior. What really drives us? I mean, think about it. Maybe you've even lived it. You love painting or coding or writing. You're so passionate about it that you think, hey, I should make this my career. But then, somewhere along the way, that joy just kind of fades. It starts to feel like a chore. How does that happen? Why is it that adding a reward, like a paycheck, can end up killing the very passion that got you started in the first place?
Well, this is what we can call the motivation paradox. It's this really frustrating conflict between doing things purely for the love of it and doing things for some kind of external reward. And let me tell you, understanding this paradox is absolutely key to unlocking sustainable, long-term motivation in pretty much every part of our lives.
So, to really get this paradox, we need to look a little closer. You see, at its heart, there are two powerful and often competing forces that drive everything we do. Psychologists call them intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Okay, let's break this down. Intrinsic motivation, that's your inner fire. It's when you do something just because the activity itself is the reward. You simply love the process. Now, on the flip side, you've got extrinsic motivation. This stuff comes from the outside. It's when you're doing something not for its own sake, but to get something in return, right? Like a paycheck, a good grade, or maybe just to avoid getting in trouble. Let's make this super clear. Intrinsic motivation, that's the artist who's all-night painting, not because they plan to sell the canvas, but just to get the colors perfect. It's the student who reads ahead in the textbook, not for a test, but because the subject is just genuinely fascinating. It's all about the joy of the act itself. And now for the other side of the coin. Extrinsic motivation? Well, that's working a job you don't particularly like just to pay the bills. It's the athlete who's only focused on the gold medal, not the love of the game. Or studying your butt off just to pass an exam. In all these cases, the activity is just a means to an end, and that end is some external reward. So, what happens when these two drives collide? This is where it gets really interesting. Psychologists actually have a name for that paradox we talked about, the overjustification effect. It's this bizarre phenomenon where an expected external reward can actually crush your internal motivation. Your brain basically shifts gears and recategorizes the activity from play to work. Now, this doesn't mean all external rewards are bad. When they're unexpected or when they're framed as feedback on how well you're doing, they can actually boost your motivation without killing the joy. A classic experiment from 1973 shows this perfectly. So researchers took a group of kids who already loved playing with these cool felt-tip pens. They promised one group a fancy Good Player Award for their drawings. But later, when the awards were gone, guess what happened? Those kids showed way less interest in the pens than the kids who were never offered a reward at all. The prize literally turned their play into a job. So, if external rewards can backfire so badly, what in the world fuels genuine, lasting motivation? Well, the answer lies in this incredibly powerful psychological framework called self-determination theory. And it argues that real motivation isn't about carrots and sticks. It's about fulfilling some really basic human needs. This theory, developed by researchers Edward Deci and Richard Ryan, is built on a pretty revolutionary idea. Just like we have physical needs for food and water, we have these innate psychological needs. And when three specific needs are met, we don't just survive, we thrive. Our intrinsic motivation just flourishes.
Okay, so need number one is autonomy. This is our deep, deep desire to feel like we're in the driver's seat of our own lives. It's that feeling that your choices are your own, that you're acting from a place of will, not because you're being forced. When you feel autonomy, you feel like the author of your own story.
Second up is competence. You know this one. We all have this natural drive to be good at what we do. It's that amazing satisfaction you get from finally nailing a new skill, or solving a really tricky problem, or just feeling effective in your day-to-day life. It's all about building mastery and feeling capable. And finally, number 3 is relatedness. This is the need to feel connected to other people, to care for them and feel cared for by them. I mean, we're social creatures, right? Feeling a sense of belonging with a community or a team is just a massive fundamental driver of our behavior and our happiness.
Okay, so how does all this work outside of a psychology textbook? Well, great leaders, whether they know the theory by name or not, are basically experts at creating environments that satisfy these 3 needs for their teams.
You know, this quote from Gert just nails the whole idea of motivational leadership. It's about seeing and believing in people's potential.
A leader's expectations don't just predict how someone will perform, they can actually help create that performance. It's powerful stuff.
So it really boils down to a few key principles. First, expect the best. This directly feeds that need for competence. It shows people you believe they can rise to the challenge. Second, create psychological safety. This supports autonomy by giving people the freedom to take risks and even fail without being terrified of punishment. And third, you have to foster collaboration. This one is all about relatedness, building a team that feels connected and is working toward a shared goal.
Okay, so let's bring this all back to you. Because understanding these principles isn't just for managers or leaders, it's about managing your own inner drive so you can avoid burnout and stay passionate about your goals for the long haul.
So how can you actually protect your own intrinsic motivation? Well, first, set some boundaries. Seriously, don't let every single passion become a side hustle. Keep some things just for you. Next, make a habit of reconnecting with why you started something in the first place. Get back in touch with that initial spark. If you do get external rewards, try to think of them as awesome feedback or a nice bonus, not the only reason you're doing the task. And most importantly, proactively look for ways to design your life and your goals to feed those needs for autonomy, competence, and relatedness.
And that really brings us to the final takeaway here. The question isn't just, how can I be more motivated? A much, much better question is this. Where in my life can I create more autonomy? Where can I build more competence? And where can I foster more connection? Because the answers to those questions, well, those are the true keys to unlocking your motivation code. Subscribe to the channel and like, and also suggest your topics for future videos in the comments.